Accounts on TikTok, where she regularly shared moments of her life, appear to have been deleted. However, on the internet you can still find several saved clips and quotes from her videos, posted by other users. In these videos, she often spoke about inner strength, wished others well, and urged people to maintain a positive attitude even in difficult times. Despite her outward cheerfulness, behind the scenes her life was gradually filling with anxiety. People who knew April Holt closely said that in her relationship with Donovan, signs of aggression began to appear over time. Outwardly, everything looked prosperous. Family photos, clips with children, stories about everyday life, but under this facade tension was growing. Over time, quarrels began to arise more often in their home, and loved ones began to notice changes in April's behavior. She became increasingly withdrawn, sometimes disappearing from sight. Some said she began avoiding communication even with those who were especially close to her. Family and friends began to worry, especially when she missed important meetings and stopped getting in touch. Soon something happened that completely changed the course of events. One evening, an emergency call was registered with a report that something terrible had happened in April's home. The responders who arrived at the scene found her with no signs of life. Donovan was also in the house, who, according to him, had discovered his wife in a critical state. The initial version voiced was that she might have taken her own life, but already in the early stages of the investigation, numerous inconsistencies appeared. Experts paid attention to evidence that did not match the version of self-harm. The traces found in the house raised more questions than answers. Injuries on April's body, signs of struggle, items lying out of place. All this indicated that Donovan's version needed to be checked. However, law enforcement showed no proper zeal. The investigation dragged on. Materials were not submitted on time. Examinations were conducted late. April's mother, Jamie, from the very beginning felt that something was wrong. She began gathering information herself, contacted independent experts, insisted on repeated examinations, and spoke with witnesses. Thanks to her persistence, progress began. New facts surfaced, confirming that what happened in April's house could not be explained by accident or self-harm. Jamie was literally forced to make the system work to ensure that the case would not be buried. April had strived to be a source of light for those who encountered her videos. She actively shared fragments of family life, posted clips with Donovan, portraying them as friends who had carried their bond through difficulties. From the clips posted by her mother Jamie, it seemed that the couple had a warm, trusting relationship. They joked, danced, looked at each other with warmth. However, behind this facade lay tensions and problems that had accumulated over years. Their union had gone through many trials, a 3-year separation, financial difficulties, problems with mental and emotional states. Despite this, they always found a way back to each other. But by the summer of 2023, the situation reached a point where previous efforts no longer helped. The inner tension grew, and at some point everything spun out of control. Friday morning, July 28th, began as usual for April. She woke up, drank coffee, wrote thoughts in her journal. This was her daily habit, a way to maintain inner balance. Her 7-year-old son, Denzel, was in the house. Where her daughter Serenity was at that moment is unknown. Testimonies from that day do not mention her. According to April's mother, there were plans for that day. They were going to watch a movie together. But the meeting had to be canceled. Donovan had to work, and April had errands to do. She promised Jamie she would stop by the school the next day. Jamie worked as a teacher and was probably planning to tidy her classroom, but that plan was not to come true. By midday, Jamie received a worried call from Donovan. He said he had found April unconscious and that she was now in an ambulance on the way to the hospital. Jamie didn't understand what had happened and tried to imagine what could have brought her daughter to such a state. Before calling Jamie, Donovan had already contacted emergency services. Responders found April in the bathroom. She was unconscious in the tub. On her head was a plastic bag, secured with duct tape around her neck. Donovan claimed that the morning had been ordinary. He was with his son, dressing him, preparing food. When he noticed that April had been in the bathroom too long, he sent Denzel to check. It was the son who allegedly found his mother in this condition. Donovan said he believed she had tried to take her own life. When April was taken to the hospital, she was in critical condition. Her brain had already suffered from prolonged oxygen deprivation. Activity was minimal. She was connected to life support. Doctors did everything possible to save her. Donovan and Jamie arrived at the hospital. Jamie tried to get details from her son-in-law, but he said little. He seemed confused, anxious, but something about his behavior aroused Jamie's suspicion. He paced, rocked in a chair, held his head, but it all looked staged. He showed little interest in April's procedures and condition. To any questions about treatment, he answered evasively, shifting responsibility to Jamie. He also withheld an important detail. He did not tell even the medical staff about the plastic bag on April's head. He showed no interest in speaking with the doctors who were trying to save April's life. That day, Donovan twice left the hospital and returned to their apartment, but told no one why or what drew him there. For the next few days, April's family lived in complete tension, while doctors conducted examinations and did everything possible to keep her alive. Despite all the efforts of the medical team, she could not be saved. On July 31st, 2023, just weeks after her 29th birthday, April Hall was officially declared dead. After this, her body was sent for forensic examination. The forensic report gave answers to many questions that the family had been asking. The main cause of death was asphyxia, oxygen deprivation caused by obstruction of the airways. In addition, experts found a series of injuries on her body that could not be explained by an attempt at self-harm. These included bruises, abrasions, and traces of pressure, indicating a violent confrontation. Jamie demanded that investigators treat the case as suspicious. She insisted that all materials be reviewed, that a new series of tests be carried out, and that all the inconsistencies in Donovan's words be carefully studied. Her persistence paid off. Specialists confirmed that April could not have put the bag on her own head and fixed it with tape. The way the tape was applied indicated external influence. The case, which at first seemed like a tragedy of personal choice, was now considered a possible homicide. Pressure from April's family and the public grew. On social networks, people began discussing the details, demanding justice. Journalists picked up the story, further fueling attention. Under this pressure, law enforcement was forced to act more decisively. Donovan became the main suspect. Gradually, evidence accumulated. Investigators established that Donovan's testimony about what happened that morning was inconsistent. His description of how he found April contradicted forensic findings. Moreover, his behavior in the days after her death looked strange. Instead of mourning his wife, he showed indifference, was not involved in funeral arrangements, and tried to avoid public attention. The final turning point came when Donovan himself could no longer bear the pressure. After long questioning, he confessed. He admitted that the events of that day were the result of a quarrel that escalated into aggression. At some point, he lost control and used the plastic bag and tape to restrain April. This led to her death. Donovan's confession shocked everyone who knew the couple. The picture of a happy family from videos and posts shattered instantly. It became clear that behind the smiling faces on the screen, a tragedy had long been brewing. Donovan was arrested and charged with murder. The trial that followed attracted public attention. The court considered not only the direct evidence, but also the background of their relationship, episodes of aggression, and psychological abuse. Jamie, April's mother, was present at every session. She fought to ensure that her daughter's story was heard in full and that justice was served. In her words, she promised April that she would not allow the truth to be buried. Ultimately, the court found Donovan guilty. He was sentenced to a long prison term. For Jamie, this was not a victory, but at least a step toward justice. She lost her daughter but managed to ensure that her memory was not tainted by false versions. April Hall's story became a tragic reminder of how dangerous hidden family conflicts can be. Outward appearances of well-being often conceal deep problems. Her death showed how important it is to notice warning signs and not remain silent when life and safety are at risk.